Hi everybody, welcome to another Chats with Chaudhry. I hope you are safe and well. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Prem Ganapathy, who is Head Medical Devices or Medical Device Test and Design Lab, let me get that correct, at Takeda. And today we're going to be talking about pre-filled syringes because Prem is one of the key speakers at the upcoming SMI Pre-Filled Syringes East Coast Virtual Conference, bit of a mouthful there, which is running on April the 26th and the 27th. So Prem, lovely to see you and thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me on this interview, Rizwan. Appreciate you having me.
Thank you very much, Prem. And you're calling in, I understand, from Boston.
That is correct, yeah. And it's snowing here today.
Well, it shows what a bizarre world is. It snowed here in the UK on Sunday, I think, but it's bright sunshine outside my window early evening this evening here in Surrey. So hopefully it will stay that way for the rest of the day and the weekend as well, at least.
Yeah, that would be nice.
Well, thank you very much, Prem, for joining us. Before we start talking about pre-filled syringes, for those who are not familiar with what your role is, can you just explain very quickly what your role is at Takeda?
Sure. So my role is basically to run our device design and test lab. So this was something that was set up in 2019. I've been at Takeda since 2018, but the role of our lab was to basically support a lot of our testing from all different phases of the lifecycle management of our product. So what we basically do is support our technical SMEs across functional teams when it comes to testing, designing, prototyping, anything and everything that supports testing. So that's basically what our role is.
Fantastic. And what's your background, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, sure. My background, I've been in medical devices for most of my career. And by fall of my career actually, and my background is in biomedical engineering.
Fantastic. So let's talk about pre-filled syringes. So the pre-filled syringes market has matured greatly over the last few years. But what are the key differences that you've noticed in the past year regarding significant developments?
Yeah, it's to be honest, it's hard to quantify it year by year because pre-filled syringes and combination devices in pharma industry generally trend over a few years.
Sure.
But one thing I've definitely noticed is, glass was always, glass being the glass barrels and materials used with glass were always dominant for the pre-filled syringes. But over the years, COP and COC, which are basically polymers, are coming into place. And you can see that, companies and device companies and manufacturers are adapting to these materials as well. There are challenges even with these materials, but with the challenges come opportunity, and other companies try to fix the challenges that's introduced with the new component. So I can see that as being a trend. I'm also looking at if you look at the dual chamber cartridges, I think that's something that was challenging in terms of testing development, but I'm seeing a lot more of dual chamber cartridges coming in as well. There's definitely a lot of companies who rather freeze dry and use lyophilized product with the sterile SWIFI, as it's called, and then just the pre-filled syringe itself. So that's another area which I've seen. And the last thing which I'm looking at is needle stick injuries over the years has been another kind of sort of topic and cause of concern. And definitely seeing a lot more companies coming up with sort of innovative ways of needle protection and protecting the patient, single-hand use syringes. So there's a lot of that's come over the last few years as well.
Yeah, funny, you just reminded me, slightly off topic, well, not off topic, but I used to work on a magazine called Nursing Times many, many years ago. And then I had a client who actually was trying to do needle stick injury or prevent them by having a needle which pushed the needle back in after it was used. So it's funny, even after all those years, and that we're talking 20 years, so showing my age now. But that's still a big issue, obviously, at this moment in time. So from your point of view personally, though, what do you see as the greatest challenge for you to overcome personally within the pre-filled syringe field right now?
Yeah, I think this is an interesting question, and I want to address it more from not from a personal perspective, but in general. If you look at testing and development for pre-filled syringes, one thing that is impacted everyone and impacts everyone is the supply chain aspect of it and component selection. Because when you select a particular set of components for a pre-filled syringe, the first question is it compatible with my drug, the molecule or the biologic?
Sure.
And the missing information is no matter how many tests you've done, or how many drugs you've done with the same platform another company has done with it, we have to repeat it all over again.
Right.
And to me, that is a big challenge, because if you have a novel therapy that's required by a patient, and it's going to take 18 months and 24 months of stability studies before we can use it, the time to market is always a big challenge. So one of the things that that's good to have is when a manufacturer comes with a new component which is new and improved, goes from not, you don't have to apply silicone, for example, on a rubber stopper. It's always nice to have that in-use stability data, and having that database, which is not free, right? Because it's proprietary to that company and to pharma companies. But with the way the world has been working over the last year with COVID, so many companies have, combined, and then manufacturing for other companies who have developed the drug. I think this could be an opportunity where, large pharmas could come together and create this database, which allows us cross-functionally from other companies to use that information. And that, I think, would alleviate a lot of challenges we have today in development of prefilled syringes.
Well, that's a really good point, actually. I think you're right. The collaborative effort, which has happened because of COVID, has seen a lot more companies who are seen as competitors, if you like, working much more closer together. So it'll be interesting to see if that continues now post-COVID as well.
Right, and that's that's been interesting. Even outside of pharma, just the ventilator industry, COVID has really done terrible things, but it's also brought us as from technology devices at pharma together to solve this problem. So I still believe in sunshine and rainbows. So so this could be another opportunity where everybody could collaborate.
Fantastic. So what are your thoughts on the developing regulatory environment for prefilled syringes and drug device combination products, and how is this impacting your role?
Yeah, in my role, we basically ensure, in terms of testing and test method development, we follow the compendia, which basically have the FDA guidance and all the ISO and the ASTM standards that come in. And one of the important roles on our end is to ensure that the standards are up to date. So our role is to ensure that our SOPs, our test methods, are always incorporating the FDA guidance, and ensuring that we're following all the guidance document. There are guidance. You follow them as best as you can. But also when they're updated, there's so many years before you're supposed to start following the newer version. So on our end, we always we always try to stay updated, and follow the compendia as best as we can.
Fantastic. All right. Now let's talk about your presentation. So you've got a presentation coming up on the second day of the event. See, I looked it up just to make sure I got the day right. And it's entitled "A Holistic Industry Outlook of Testing and Development for Prefilled Syringes." So what's that really about? And why is it relevant at this current time?
Right. So I'm going to focus, even though it says holistic for the industry outlook, my presentation is going to be more focused on what Takeda does in terms of prefilled syringe testing, and some of the standards we use and the instruments we use, both internally and externally, and sort of give an overview of what's the best way to approach the whole process of testing, test method validation, equipment validation. So it sort of enhances and encompasses prefilled syringe development testing at Takeda, and best practices that we follow. And in terms of what's relevant, not only short-term and long-term, is to look at how companies can sort of invest in themselves. It's always nice to have an outside lab, which most of us pharma companies do. We collaborate with outside test labs, but having that knowledge in-house makes you better and makes it more efficient to work with outside labs. So that's just a little bit what I'll focus on as well.
Well, you know what the right questions to ask people then as well, don't you? Because if you know what the issues are, at least you can ask the right questions to solve the problems, can't you? You don't know.
Right.
Right. So and finally, my final question is, how would you see the pre-filled syringe market developing in the future? And what do you think is going to be the biggest growth area for 2021?
Yeah, I think, the buzzword these days is digital, right? I mean, everybody, and patient compliance. I think they kind of go hand in hand. With prefilled syringe, at the end of the day, it's a plunger that the patient pushes into them, but there's so much that comes with it, and compliance and patient adherence is a big one. And I think there are a lot of innovations coming around. How do we collect that data? How do we connect it to an app? So the digital side of things is one thing that's constantly growing. and I definitely see that going further. Industry experts have said there's going to be 10 to 11% growth in pre-filled syringe sales every year, and I think it's that and more. And also the other thing that for us to consider is with the vaccines that's coming about, it's from a vial that you withdraw and you inject yourself. That can change to a pre-filled syringe. That means more opportunities and more pre-filled syringes just impacting the vaccine landscape. Definitely, I mentioned dual chambers, cartridges, which are slowly starting to ramp up, and I definitely see a lot more of that as well.
Brilliant. Well, that's all we've got time for. So, Prem, all I can say is I really appreciate taking time out on your snowy Boston afternoon or morning, actually, where it is where you are, to take the time to talk to me today. Good luck with the presentation in a couple of weeks' time. I hope it goes very, very well. And all I say is thank you very much for your time.
Well, thank you so much, Ivan. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts on the pre-filled syringe landscape.
No, it's lovely. And if you'd like to know more about the event and also Prem's presentation, there will be a link above the video, so you can click on that to find out more about the event in a couple of weeks, and also about Prem's presentation in particular as well. So all that's going to say is, Prem, thank you very much. Look after yourself and have a great show. And thank you all for watching as always. And until next time, as always, stay well and stay safe. Bye-bye.